Brett, thank you so much for coming back. The last episode that we had was with Michael, and it was
Mhm.
all around AI won't replace elite pals, but it will replace the average partner alliance leader. So, do you agree with that?
I agree with that. I think AI could potentially replace the meek, right? Like the ones that stand out, us wallflowers. I'm a quiet one myself. We all know that. I think it's going to help me move even faster than I've ever moved before. It's a yes and no question at the same time. Is it going to help? Is it going to replace pals? Nope. There's too much human element involved. There's too much translation to learn. There's too much reading the room and building rapport with people at the human element. And an AI bot is not going to do that. I don't care how cute she is, if she's trying to sell you tooth whitening paste or whatever it is, but that's a high level. I don't think that, I don't think we're going to get it replaced, but if you do ignore it, you're going to get outpaced real quick. Again, I'll say this over and over again. There's 150,000 partners out there globally, all trying to climb the $140 billion mountain. How are you going to get to the top first? And you need every freaking scrappy tool, co-sell stack, AI advantage to get you ahead of the curve, right? Like, Armstrong didn't, he didn't just work hard. He found every angle he could to get ahead. And, we know the Uniballer did pretty good until he got busted.
Yep. And you've built some amazing tech stacks and workflows, not only within your own company, but for other companies as well. So, in terms of a time frame, what changes in the next 12 to 18 months for PALs, specifically around AI, but the workflow stuff as well?
I think that's where we're going to see the most advantages. Again, it can't take somebody out and look them in the eyes and build rapport with them when you're buying them a cocktail or having those secret conversations and building rapport and getting the information that they're not going to tell anybody else. But what it can do is it can shorten your time frames to go to market. It can help build your plans faster. Like when Tackle started coming out and like later on like Workspan and Sugar and Klazar, like those are the things that I see iterations of change. It's just going to be at a more strategic level than just a machine learning automation. I mean, a lot of that stuff, it's batching data out of Salesforce and it's shoving it into ACE so you get more transparency in your pipeline. That's how I really see AI kind of coming together. It's just what are the hardest things that you have to do manually every day, but AI can help replace that. And a lot of times it's just, sending a message, writing out your go-to-market plan, field execution, having a platform for enablement. And to me, that's where it's not going to replace me, but I'm going to train it so that I've got maybe it's just an LLM it's basically like a little mini me in front of every one of my sellers to say, what would Brett do? How would Brett talk to this seller in this conversation? What are the different levers I can pull based off of what this customer does? Some of the benefits that I have, like MOP or proof of concept funding, or the intelligence I can get from the AWS rep. Like, how can I leverage all these different things to either win the deal or just find more benefits to be able to give to my customer? That's where I think AI is going to really come in handy. It's going to help me scale, and that way I can be everywhere at once, which normally you can't be everywhere at once. You got 30 minutes of enablement and support and kind of unraveling the puzzle for every one of your deals at a time. And so I think that's where it's going to be a big change there.
So, really helping you scale. And I guess that comes on to the next question. I know you just started a new job. If you were giving some advice to someone that's starting as an alliance leader, where would you see the opportunity with AI within that role?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably looking at all the different data points and correlating those things together, because I think that's where like you would want to start to like, interview different parts of the company, talk to your CTO, talk to the CIO. What's the roadmap going to look like? Because you start thinking about those different elements and then you put your brain and all the puzzle pieces together. I think that's where it's capturing the data, it's correlating the data so that the biggest things are the big rocks, right? The big rocks you can flip over, the big things that are going to change that you can align to different programs at AWS, or you can get a leader of leaders really excited because of what you're doing with AI. I like to say there's no perfect framework. There's a starting point of what are you going to do with co-build and what are your opportunities with co-market, and then how do you get out there and really execute and pull some levers with co-sell. But it's not a one size fits all. Like it's just not. Everybody's a snowflake. And so what I look at it as is, and that's where I need as many of those data points as possible, because what I have is I have a big box of Legos and I'm an expert in every single one of those parts of those Legos. I know exactly what to do with each one of those parts based off of what the opportunity is at the organization that I'm working at the time. What are they really doing? Are we integrated here? Can we look at a competency over there? Is this going to drive consumption XYZ way? So I think that's where AI can really help. It's just correlating a lot of those data points so that it shortens the amount of time that we have to think about all those different puzzle pieces coming together. I always joke I'm a giant golden retriever chasing shiny objects, and I'm really, really good at it, my neurodivergent ADHD self. But I can see the forest of the trees. It just makes sense. But that doesn't mean everybody can do that, right? And so having all those different data points in one place to say, oh, all right, we're a product-led growth company. In our roadmap, the CIO has a new SaaS product that's going to be AI related. Great. Now I'm starting to think SCA that's Gen AI related and how that's going to level me up as a partner. Because if you don't have a great AI story with AWS, then you're just not going to be a priority.
Michael and I spoke about how we each use LLMs and AI, and because I'm normally dealing with multiple different cultures. So when I'm communicating to, let's say, a CFO who's German, a salesperson that's French, the CTO is Spanish, they all speak English, but they all translate in a different way. So I actually put that information in and then map it to the culture map to make sure that it's very clear and precise. And so they understand what I'm saying. So the simplistic things like that. Yeah.
That's brilliant. No,
Yeah.
that is really important because let's say hotshot SaaS startup on the West Coast of America is going to be very different than a hardcore engineer mind leader in Germany for sure. And
Yeah.
they're not going to take my showmanship the same way for sure.
Yeah, there's always a challenge around that. So yeah. So what three responsibilities do you think stay human even with great AI?
Oh, rapport, period. Like number one, above and beyond anything else. Reading the room, knowing how to build rapport is it's not anyone's responsibility to give you all the data that you want. We have to go dig it out of the person. We've got to have that conversation with them. We've got to build rapport. We got to speak native Amazonian. I think it's that. I don't think that AI is going to do a very good job of speaking Amazonian to be that liaison, to be the translator between like what your company does and how that applies to native language at Amazon. I think rapport, I think being the translator in the room. And then last but not least, I mean, field execution period. Like AI is never going to get there. It's not going to know who to talk to, how to read the room. It just doesn't have that human element. And really, it's not going to happen anytime soon. I mean, we're talking about like pretty amazing advanced machine learning right now, but a conscious level is probably not even going to happen within our lifetime. So
Yeah.
being able to find those things, sure, it can pull triggers, it can do some best practices, but it doesn't mean it's always going to apply to the right person at the right situation at the right time.
And in terms of, I mean, you've just started your role. What AI have you used on a daily basis, weekly basis, as you've come into that role? Have you used anything?
Just high level, I'm here about a month in. I keep it real high level. That's because we're security companies, so we have to be very sensitive to that data. Most of it is just shortcuts. Instead of taking the time to really, really write out a really long go-to-market plan, or certain steps that I want for enablement or execution, I hit the record button. I just talk to it about all my favorite things. What do I want to accomplish? How are we going to get there? Best practices. And for me, again, like being that golden retriever chasing shiny objects, I've got a lot of great ideas, but they're not always in order. So I think that's where it helps me, take something that would normally take me a couple hours to really sit down, get detail oriented, write out like every single detailed step of how we're going to execute against it. I can have a conversation with it in 5 minutes and get pretty close to the same outcome.
Yeah.
Always gut check it though, because it's not perfect yet. Again, this is very similar to the early days of cloud where people were forklifting on-prem workloads into the cloud and just screwing things up all over the place. So be cautious is all I got to say right now. I mean, it's fun, but also don't lose like your human elements of being able to write anymore. I think I'm seeing that more and more. People are being a little codependent on it, and I
Yeah.
think you're going to lose some of your natural talents by not exercising those things in your brain.
And so, what's the biggest negative? What's the biggest AI trap for alliance leaders that are thinking about AI and utilizing AI?
If you don't have a lot of experience in the alliance world yet, I mean, a lot of experience, I just don't trust it yet. And I'll use a reference of like the early days of cloud. Everybody did it wrong. We don't know what we're doing yet. It's broken all over the place. Even today, like 95% of VPCs are still not configured properly, and they've got millions of customers, right? So don't have full trust in what AI is telling you to do when it comes to alliances, because this is definitely still a people sport above and beyond anything else. Having all the data points and knowing how to use them is where you can leverage something like AI to help correlate all that stuff for you, but don't necessarily follow its lead. Because if I tell me what XYZ is and why I would execute against it this way, I found more often than not that it's not accurate. And if you go in there, you're going to make yourself look like a fool. So be careful with it.
Final question. We've done two episode so far. What would you like to see in a third episode around AI and alliance leaders?
I think it'd be fun to talk even more about like correlation shortcuts. And I liked your idea, around more just the enablement side of it. Like, how do you build that right? What are the key data points you really want to have in there that any of your sellers that want to be more informed or more enabled can ask, and you can get answers to them really quickly?
Mm.
Again, it still goes back to me thinking about I can only enable 30 minutes at a time. It's
Yep.
just, I'm one person. I'm not AI. I do use the bathroom. I do have PTO. I do sleep at night. So I think that could be an interesting one to kind of really think about, like, how do we, how do you use that to scale? How can you figure out a way that we can be Superman and we can be everywhere at once?